Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to PWD Allies podcast. The show is being brought to you by Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. That's where I am right now, and that's where my journey began on, earlier this month. And it started in Victoria and went to Vancouver, British Columbia, and out to Toronto, Ontario. So, once again, my name is Brent Frain. I'm the host of the show, and this is where the host began the journey with Sonjia and myself, and we started early on in the early morning hours, and we left Victoria. So let's start the show off with the memory lane. So we started from Victoria.
Well, let's Brent, let's back up the train and let's say that we're going to be starting in Victoria. And we're going to be going all the way to Toronto. For those that haven't seen your train videos,
yes.
What are you doing? You have to go back and watch the train videos, but we're giving context. So for those that don't know or haven't watched them yet, that's what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about going from Victoria, BC, all the way from Vancouver to Toronto and then back. So go.
Yeah, I really encourage people to tune into our train adventures through Via Rail Canada, which started in Vancouver, British Columbia. But first, we started on our journey from Victoria. And people that are not familiar where Victoria, BC is, it's on the most southern part of Vancouver Island, on Vancouver Island in Victoria here. So in order to get to Vancouver, we have to take a transit bus. And now it depends on the time of the day. If you're leaving early in the morning, there is no transit to take us from where we are to downtown Victoria, where you can catch a transit bus to take you to the BC ferries. And then you got to take BC ferries over to Vancouver and then another bus and then another train in order to take us to downtown. So it's definitely...
just to get off the island, it's a bit...
Just to get off...
It's a bit... it's like, welcome to the Hotel California. You can never leave. You can never leave.
Yeah. It reminds you of Gilligan's Island, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's a beautiful place, but transit-wise, accessibility-wise, and now that's where it gets into kind of grading where Victoria is not for the the Metro Vancouver. For the transit-wise, it's actually brought to you by BC Transit. So in order to get from there, you get into Metro Vancouver, and then you take the rapid transit. So different modes of transportation to get down to the Pacific National Center there. So you take the Via Rail, and that's where we started. We got down there and got checked in with Via Rail with your luggage, and they gotta know what you're bringing on and how much luggage, etc. And they scan your barcode and know who you are, where you're going to be situated. And so our journey began getting on there, and it was a great journey just for people following along. I really, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I really encourage you to check out our journey because it actually tells more of the story. I'll give you a quick overview of the story, but I really want you to check out our journey. That way it kind of corresponds with what I'm saying now. So the journey was a very memorable journey. I really enjoyed doing that segment. It was fun. It was fun at the same time because being able to get around on the train, you're not just sitting in one spot. You're able to move around on the train, accessible wise. yeah, you just have to keep your balance because the train does move around. Um, but having like a cafe car close by where we were, the seats recline back. You could actually put your feet up on a leg rest, and you've got your charging stations, charging up your cell phone or your music. You're listening to it. Bring it back. And here's a helpful hint, though, which I didn't really emphasize on the segment, is bring battery backup. So if you got battery banks, please bring them along with you. If you ever want to take the train trip, you won't be sorry if you did. Invest in it. If you can. Maybe $20. I mean, you can get a set of them. I mean, you don't have to be fancy. Plug in your.
Because you always say that the only plugins they usually have on the train is in the bathrooms.
Oh my gosh, yeah, like they're hard to find. Where we were, like we had them right in our seats, so you could plug your battery backup into the back of the seats. They have 2 plugins right there, and they have and that's in coach seating, right? So I want to emphasize, in coach seating, you have them in the back of your seats. They have a table that comes down too, so that's another bonus. And leg rest, the seat goes back. Bring a pillow with you, okay? Because you can buy them on the train. But...
Well, and we had a comment on one of your last videos, on the train video, and somebody said, well, what's the cost? And you clarified with me before I commented back to the person that when you have coach seating, the food is extra. You have to pay for all the food, right? So that's the only thing for coach seating. You have to pay for all the food, but then if you get a private room, the food is included with the ticket.
Yeah. So I will explain that part just so that people that are listening and following along with the journey, maybe they're considering and wanting to take the journey from Vancouver to other parts of Canada. Basically, the final destination on the Canadian train is from Vancouver to Toronto. It does go further east from there, and other points north from Manitoba and from Ontario, and eastward from Toronto, Ontario. But with the aspect of basically buying food, so coach seating, you have access to the cafe car. You do not, and I'll emphasize, you do not have access to the dining car when you're in coach seating. It's strictly enforced. They know who their passengers are in each car, and they call them cars of where you're situated. So if there's 2 or 3 cars that are for coach seating, they know, the attendant knows who their passengers are in that car.
So do they taser all the passengers that are trying to get to the dining car?
Oh, we witnessed a few. We witnessed a few.
Maybe a lightsaber.
Yeah, it's like whoa. As Brent's waving his hand with a lightsaber. It's like a taser. No. We've witnessed a few, not really altercations, but people being escorted back to their cars, and saying, "Well, hang on, no, you need to be along in this corridor." Oh, I was just curious to see what coach seating looked like. Yeah, well.
And then they were wearing ankle bracelets afterwards, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for ourselves, like I'll kind of explain about the coach seating as we go through our journey, because it's quite entertaining on that for sure. Because we were kind of curious, well, what is coach seating like? Because we had accommodation on our way out. The reason why is because we got it as a reduced cost, and for us, it didn't cost us anything. But I was told that to get the most value at the time, and so I did, and it covered the food costs. But again, like coach seating, we'll get back to the coach seating part, and then I'll streamline into the on the journey into the difference between the accommodation part. So the coach seating is, you buy your stuff in the cafe car. Lived experience, I mean, it's trial by error, right? When you're traveling, I mean, you don't always know, well, what, maybe I should have brought this or should have done that. So I would recommend to people doing the coach seating, bring like some hot oatmeal with you. Like you can have access to they have a hot water little valve. You can fill up your bowl, like I'll say a plastic bowl, or if you want to recycle it. I mean, I encourage to recycle. but I mean reusable ones, right? Anyway, so you can fill it up, or a hot cup. Bring your say a hot coffee, like a like a container of hot coffee. I mean, not hot coffee, but instant coffee. Pour it in there, and they got cream and stuff on there. So sure, I mean, why not just do it that way? Save some money, because they're gonna nail you like I mean $3.50 for a cup of coffee. They encourage customers to keep that cup, rinse it out. You can use it throughout the day. They have no problem with that. They'll charge you $2 for a refill. So you don't want to do it that way, because otherwise it'll add up. Now, buying stuff out of the cafe cart, you can get some really good meals. I mean, I was amazed. I mean, maybe Sonjia, maybe you can mention what was your favorite in like some of the meals in the cafe cart.
Scrambled eggs, potatoes. That's good.
Scrambled eggs and potatoes. It was very tasty.
Like hash browns.
Hash browns, yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
It was it was like an omelet. Like it was really tasty. People
and the beef.
It was like a beef stroganoff kind of a dish that was in there, and with some veggies. So you got your veggies in there. It was actually very tasty. Amazing enough. Like some people think, well, it's microwave food, right? Thrown in there. And the price, the only drawback was the price was kind of up there a little bit for what you would get. So $30 for two people. Or I mean, you look at like a hot entree, like it was like like $12.50, right? So I mean, that would add up very fast. So you would want it. I would look at the menu, and I would find something that would be filling, that would fill you up, and would hold you over. I found that hot oatmeal was the best thing for me in the morning, and it held me over. So I just have something very light for lunch, and
that's why you said, like, if you compared the price of going from the coach to a roomette, which is the cheapest, which is the cheapest private room, is sometimes more like a better way to go, because all your food is included then.
Yeah, economically it is. It would work out really well for a passenger to do it that way, because you start adding up these little things. I mean, it doesn't seem like much at first. Amazing enough, we actually did quite well on our journey, because very self-conscious on getting the most value for your dollar. Being legislated into poverty in Canada is not a great thing. So being fortunate enough to do the Via Rail trip and just saving up the dollars.
Somebody asked me where I went for my summer break. I didn't go anywhere. Newsflash.
So like I mean, so like we saved up like GSTs and stuff, and birthday money and Christmas money, and we still keep that money aside, so when we do want to do another journeys, like short journeys, then we can kind of add to that. And so that's what we did, because people say, well, how, the question I always get was, well, how can you afford that? I mean, you're in legislated poverty in Canada because governments don't care. One of my neighbors says, because governments don't care about PWD. I go, well, newsflash, we all get disabilities in our lives. I guess we don't care about seniors either. I mean, I'll get on a whole rant of another conversation on another show, but
we could bundle in like 5 or 6 podcasts in this one episode.
We could. That's a heavy duty topic, and I really encourage people that want to talk about lived experience stories to come on for a show. But so like when I say get the most value for your dollar, like that's basically what we got. Like we really stretched it far. We actually took a heavy bag. This time around, we actually reduced it down, and I said to Sonjia, there's no way we're going to take that heavy bag. I was carrying this heavy bag. It was like, you're allowed to bring a certain amount of carry-ons with you. On the Via Rail, they're very picky. They changed their bagging policy, which I totally understand, because they don't want people bringing like tons and tons of bags on with you, right? So you can bring on, a personal item, a carry-on bag. You can bring a check bag per passenger. And so like a personal item is, well, if she's bringing a purse on, well, I mean, that's not even a personal item. That's just who you are. That's part of it. So she was able to get a purse and throw it into a little carry bag. So now she's got that plus that. And then she was able to bring another, like a carry-on bag, like personal item plus a carry bag and a checked item. It's checked item. So I want to clarify something with people, is that when I say checked item, that checked item, you have to be really careful. You can bring it on with you, But if you want it as a checked item, and it's not too heavy because they weigh it. But if you want to bring it on with you, now you're accountable for that. You need to put it where you want to put it. If you can store it in a safe spot, because if it's checked, you have no access to that bag until you get to your final destination. So be really careful when you're bringing a checked item on with you on the VO rail, because we've almost found out that the hard way. I said, okay, so you got checked items, a suitcase? Yeah. Okay, did you want to put that into another storage room? I said, well, we just want to explore around, and I want to film the beginning of our segment and right in front of the train station. So people that were following along with the video, when you saw that segment of a picture of the building, I didn't have my suitcase with me. Sonjia was hanging on to it inside the building, because if we would have put it in checked luggage, we would not have had access to that until we got to Toronto. So we have to be careful. So she goes, well, you go out and film it. Okay. So I went out and filmed this. This is where our journey begins, right? And then I booted back inside. And so we had access. We threw it out.
So the things that Sonjia does behind the scenes, eh?
The things Sonjia does behind the scenes is very grateful, and I appreciate all her filming that she does too with our segments, and I do a lot of the filming too. But she watches a lot of our luggage too while I'm doing some of the filming too. So I'm really grateful on that, and she's keeping track of where our luggage is. And so we hauled all of our luggage in via Rail Canada. Thank you. I want to thank you. For your hospitality and for helping us with our luggage too. Some of it was a little bit heavy, especially the bags that we're trying to carry. A carry-on bag of snacks and drinks and beverages that kept the cost down hugely. And they encouraged me to bring it on. This time around, we didn't load it down as heavy because they left a little welt on my shoulder. And oh man, I didn't realize. I'm like, why is my shoulder hurting? I'm looking like, oh, big, like a red mark right there. I'm like, wow, it stung. Yeah, I dug right in. Our journey.
Sorry, I just wanted to break in a little bit. We have Lisa in chat. She's had the question up for. I don't know if it's a question actually. I just wanted to.
Hi, Lisa.
If she's still there, her comment was York region, and then she's got in brackets is mobility on request is fantastic. So I'm assuming she's talking about the service in York region called mobility on request, and then she says you can compare to wheeled trans. Now I don't know what either of those things are, so. Lisa, if you're still in chat, maybe you can clarify what the mobility on request is and the wheel trans is. Like if there are services that are available for people in like the Toronto area or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great, Lisa, if you could clarify it. I mean, I'll tell you, I mean, on my knowledge, and I could be wrong, and people could correct me on that, because I'm only going with my knowledge based on in BC and from what I hear in Ontario when we did make our way out there, that when I get to that part of the journey. But in the meantime, Lisa, if you are online, if you could clarify on that, that would be awesome. Just so our other listeners and viewers could maybe chime in on that too and talk about their lived experience with that. That'd be great. So I guess I covered the part where comes down to the difference on coach seating. Would I do coach seating again? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I just know how to prepare for it. I mean, it gets a little, I shouldn't say really uncomfortable. It's just positioning yourself in the seat, making sure you bring some comfy stuff with you, and you're able to move around. When I say uncomfy, because it's like the armrest. It's like half an armrest. That's where you're trying to put your arm down, but it's only half of an armrest. So yeah, it does get a little bit uncomfy. We could have had a 4-seater. They were going to give us a 4-seater seat at first, and I thought, wow, like complimentary, no problem. But here's the catch, though. They didn't have the tables that came down in front of you.
Oh.
So they didn't have those in front of you. And now looking back at it, and I said to Sonjia, was it really a big deal? Maybe we could have just taken them anyway, because we did use the tables, but not as much as we thought. They did have the plugins. But imagine having 2 seats in front of you where you could put all your stuff in, and you're just sitting here, you have nothing else around you. But you could really utilize those because you could actually maybe put your legs all the way out and then, or lay down. You could actually lay down in each area, right? So there's pros and cons to it, but you take what they actually assign you. And we were fortunate. We were able to pick which seats were, kind of good for us overall. You got overhead luggage where you can put your stuff overhead. You got a luggage rack, first come, first serve. You get access to that stuff. You put stuff under your seats. Washrooms on board. You can go and use your washrooms, and water bottles. You can fill up your water bottles. So I encourage people to, you can fill up your water bottles there. And they got water stations and they replenish it. It's actually okay water to drink. It's safe to drink because they replenish it. They have all their filling stations when they service the train at stops. You don't have access to showers, unfortunately, in coach seating. So that kind of sucks. But that's just the way it goes. Some people try to go into accommodation area.
Taser!
Yeah, I advise you probably not a good idea to do that because the attendants actually do watch for that. We actually did witness that. And, I even said to one of the attendants, hey, I go, so-and-so is down there. Yeah, I know, whatever. They just let it go. But yeah, I mean, when you're in a corridor, please respect that. Your assigned area because it's for your safety and for other customer safety, not just like passenger safety. I mean, that is important too, obviously, but it's for protocol. And I found this out from Via Rail because that's what I'm going to lean into now, the sleeper accommodation part, where they want to keep track of who's in what corridor, just for safety reasons, and just so they can say like. We've got 150 people in coach seating. Okay. Yeah. So why is there only 142 people? Where are the other 8 people?
And it makes sense too when you think about building codes. Like a lot of the public buildings that you go in, like even at my church, they'll have a plaque on the wall that says maximum capacity is say like 450 people or something. And I'm sure like anything like a train is the same thing.
It is
like per car has got to have a maximum capacity thing. So they gotta be able to like keep track of all that, right? I'm sure.
Yeah, and that's what they explained to me too. It's a balance of knowing how many passengers are in each component because when they scan your ticket, they know where you are supposed to be at any particular time, right? So if you're on at a stop where we've got like say 45 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it is, that's fine. You go onto the platform, you go where they tell you that you can go as far as you go, just be back near the train. And when you get back to the train, if you're closer to another compartment, say it's coach seating, and you're supposed to be in accommodation, which is many cars down, and you got to walk all the way down. And if there's a cart there and you can't do that, they'll give you a ride in that little cart. They have little golf carts and they can give you a ride all the way down this golf cart, all the way down to your corridor if you need to. Yeah. If you don't need that, they will help you up onto the train. They have a little pedestal where you can climb onto, and they got bars. If you grab onto them, they'll stand behind you and actually help you up the stairs. There are stairs there. Yeah. So for mobility wise, they're awesome. Like they will help you and they'll make sure you get on.
So how about a wheelchair or a scooter then? Do they have the ramp that comes down or?
They do have ramps for that. Like they actually will get you onto there. They have all their set up for that. I haven't witnessed that, but they told me they have everything all set.
I mean, I saw the yellow stool on on the video there.
Yeah, and in some places, if the ground is uneven, that could be interesting. And there was one stop that we stopped at, and I was going to get off, and they're like, the one attendant said, "Okay, just be really careful because the ground is a little uneven. Are you sure you want to get up?" And I went, I said, "Oh, it looks like it's raining out pretty good." She goes, "Yeah, maybe if you don't want to, you don't have to." I go, "Nah." I go, "You know what? Heck." I got off, and it was coming down. The rain was coming down. I'm like, okay, some fresh air. Okay, I'm going back in now. So she says, be careful. So I grabbed on the bars. She stood behind me. Sonjia was still inside. I just grabbed on the bars, and she stood behind me and just kind of give me a little push up that way, and you don't fall back, right? The one attendant actually did take a little tumble herself. She lost balance. Yeah, she actually lost balance. So she goes, again, just reminding people to just be really careful. And she's there. I mean, they're there to help you. And so we got on the one stop and we walked through coach seating because they said, all aboard, and you have to get on. And as soon as they make that announcement, so whatever car that you're closest to, get on. Yeah. And so we got on, and that's how we got to check out coach seating. And the attendant was sitting there, hello, and I'm like, hi. He goes, oh, you're on your way to. Yeah, it was actually our accommodation that we had at first. Mm-hmm. I said, yeah, that's right. He goes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I know where you guys are situated. Well, I didn't even know who that person was. That's what I'm saying. They know that you're not in their compartment. Yeah. So, and I said, oh, cool. So we get to see what coach seating's like? Yeah, cool, right? Yeah. Good. Yeah. Knock yourself out, he said. I'm like, what? Well, I mean, not literally, he said, but so we wandered through. Okay, interesting. This is what we're up against on our way back.
I wonder if because I know we were going to do a short show today, Brent. So yeah, it's we've got about maybe a little over 10 minutes left. So I was wondering if you wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk about do the compare contrast between Vancouver and Toronto. Like what's your experience if you're going to compare Vancouver transit, accessible transit to Toronto? All the way east. Like, what's the difference going from coast to coast? If we want to spend the last 10 minutes kind of talking about that.
Yeah, I will streamline really quickly into that. What I'll do is just for people that are following along, and I left off from coach, like the accommodation part. Basically, it's really worth it. It's like you get all your food included. And like kind of all the above that I've mentioned in coach seating, but you get all your stuff inclusive. How you calculate that is, and then I'll get into about the differences on the transit Vancouver versus Toronto, is you look at your coach seating price. Okay, if you can get it for a value price that works good for your budget, great, go for it. You add up the cost of what it would probably in general cost you in food per day. So like again, you average out maybe say $20, $15 maybe for your breakfast, maybe a little bit less, lunch.
Like $15 each.
Each person. So you average it out overall per day, and then you add up on the top of your coach versus your food. And if you can get your price for your sleeper accommodation, the cheapest option, because it doesn't matter which option that you choose, you're still going to have access to the same accommodations that everybody else does in sleeper accommodation. The only difference is the size of the rooms are bigger and you're paying bigger price. We had an option of looking at that, but it wasn't, the financial option was not there because they're like, no way. Like did I win the lottery or something to afford that? Like, so we said no, like we couldn't do our accommodation on the way back. So we had to do coach seating, and that was fine. So the difference now is the transit. When we left, Metro Vancouver in Vancouver, BC, the transit to get around, I mean, wow, like compared to Victoria, it's daytime, nighttime, right? I mean, you can get around like, wow, okay, I can get from point A to point B, no problem. And we knew how to navigate because I grew up out that way, and so did Sonjia. So we knew how to navigate the system really well. And so when we got to Toronto, Ontario, the GTA, we explored different areas on that. And if we run out of time on today's podcast, I will continue on the segment on the difference, but I will try to really streamline it. Is so the difference between Vancouver and Toronto, the difference on the transportation, it's just amazing. We got to Toronto, GO trains everywhere, GO trains, and they're like the West Coast Express. If people are familiar with British Columbia, Metro Vancouver, they're going to say, oh yeah, West Coast Express, yeah, the commuter train, all right, yeah, that leaves Mission, British Columbia in the morning, early hours, and it parks.
And that's like one train versus all the crap that they have.
Four trains. They have 4 trains that leave out of Mission, though. Yeah, but they all go from east to west. And they park in Vancouver for the day, drop off the commuters for the day, and then they start going after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They go in increments back to Mission again, which is about an hour and 10 or hour and 20-minute ride on the actual train. It's somewhere around there, hour and 10, hour and 20 minutes. I don't know exactly, but I've taken it many years ago. I enjoyed it. Because it reminded me of the Via Rail. Like it's the train, right? It's the journey of taking that train. But imagine taking that same kind of train for a long distance from Vancouver to Toronto. Same kind of deal, folks. But the comfort is there. So when we got to explore the GO train, it ran all the time. And I was like, wow, this is great. You can actually get to and from the community. You don't have to be trapped in one community and not be able to get back until like during the day. Like you can go throughout the day. Do I think that accessibility wise that they could improve on the GO train? Absolutely. There were a couple of things that did stand out. Sonjia and I were discussing this off air before I launched today, and she had mentioned about the reader parts, and yes, for myself, I struggled with that because the font size was very tiny.
You mean the card reader parts? Or?
Yeah, the card reader part on their digital reader. It would be helpful if it said the incoming train is going to. And it doesn't say that. Like where Metro Vancouver, the difference is Metro Vancouver, it actually does say that. Like they actually say the train is going to. So that's the difference between the systems. Should I say Vancouver should be able to really enhance their service and have multiple directions throughout the day for the West Coast Express? Absolutely. It can be done. CP Rail owns the right of way on that line, folks.
They're actually saying Vancouver's going to have worse transit soon because you've heard about all the cutbacks that they're threatening, right? They're threatening all these cutbacks now because they've run out of money.
Yeah, billions of dollars. And newsflash, folks, newsflash. I remember going to a banquet meetings with Transit at the time, and this was way back when it was BC Transit, not TransLink, BC Transit, and they were warned by an architecture who the guy's grandfather, the guy's grandfather built the English Channel. You know, they one in Europe, his grandfather built. He had the blueprints, and he showed, and he said his father worked with his uncle and built the one in San Francisco, built under the Bay Bridge under their BART system. So he says like things need to change fast, and that was before TransLink became formed as TransLink. And he warned in a meeting, and you know what, they shuffled him. They wanted to get him out of there, but he made it a good point, and I always stuck in my mind because we had Q&A, and I got to ask a question was, so are you saying that the population is going to grow? He goes, I'm actually just preparing the government for growth over time. I don't know how much it's going to grow, but we need to be proactive. We need to start building now, and we need to build our infrastructure to go around transit, not just keep building more roads or just popping up more buildings. We need to put rapid transit out. Again, it's unfortunate that we are where we are now because now we got massive growth and the infrastructure hasn't kept up with it. So when I look at that, it really makes me boil because it made sense back then. Because I said, well, I just want to be able to get from point A to point B. That's for what I looked at. And when I go on my journeys here, I look at the transit there and I'm like, wow. And people probably looked at us like, huh? Are these two out to lunch? Like, wow. Like we're just amazed with the transit. Yeah. And I could get to and from a community. It was. And
you should say too. I mean, you've said before lots actually, but you should say again that the transit in Victoria is especially bad, right? The Victoria and surrounding communities is especially bad on the island, we should say.
It is getting very congested with traffic now, with a lot of people moving over to Victoria and other parts of southern Vancouver Island and areas like Cowichan, to Duncan. People are familiar with what areas that I'm mentioning. Cowichan Valley is a huge area. Victoria proper is very big too, right? Because we've got Saanich, the Saanich Peninsula, and we got Souk, which is further out of Victoria, and the transit, the congestion of the roads infrastructure, it can't handle the volume. There's always accidents. It's always backed up to transit. Transit can't even get through. Not enough road infrastructure. They're widening the roads, which great. for more improvement of accessibility wise, of getting more volume through of traffic. However, is it the model of just improving more road structure because of the volume of people, or should we be looking at putting like an LRT down through these communities? I would say, and some people would probably disagree with me watching this. No, not LRT. Well, there's LRT, okay, light rail transit, and then there's BRT, and that's bus rapid transit. Should we have both modes? I would say yes. I would say yes. Let's do both modes in every major urban center, like Victoria, Saanich, out to Souk, out to from Vancouver Island, from Victoria, going through Cowichan Valley, out to Nanaimo, out from Nanaimo all the way up to Port Alberni, out to Campbell River. Like there's all these areas, okay, and now we got BC Ferries now saying that they're having to bring in more new fleets. They're having to order more ferries.
And again, we should say as well, like there used to be a service, Greyhound bus.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid, I rode that bus a few times. It was to like Kelowna and Penticton and it was a great. I mean, it serviced a lot of areas, a lot of communities, and then it just.
In 2018, it went under. In my community in Langley.
It's a big void. It's a big void now.
Yeah, I used to take it from Langley, and I go up to like Kelowna. I would take it up to Calgary, Alberta. I took it actually when I was younger. I took it all the way to Winnipeg, Manitoba, to visit my dad. And I remember taking the Greyhound all the way from. We had to catch the bus right from there, or if you wanted the express, you'd have to catch it from Vancouver. So I had to backtrack and take it all the way up there because some of the routes would not go through Langley, even though, like, go figure, right? I mean, I lived there, or you take the route where you could get there an ungodly hour into Winnipeg because there was a couple routes. So I had to take the one route that would actually get me there at a reasonable time because my dad, there was no way. He said he would go and be at the Greyhound depot to pick me up because it wasn't safe then. Imagine now, I don't know, that many years later, decades later, it's really not safe at certain hours of the night, for safety wise, accessible wise. So I missed the Greyhound, and again, that's an accessibility issue. I know that governments across Canada can work together and getting an interurban system arranged. It's just taking that political will to actually do it. The money is there. They're like, oh no, it's going to cost money. The money is there. Again, it's like basic income. The money is there. Let's just get it done.
It's just called budget choices, right? I mean,
it's money allocation.
Even on an individual level, we each make individual choices on what we want to spend our money on. Like you were saying, I mean, how can you afford the train trip? Well, I mean, you're making budgetary choices and sacrifices somewhere else, so you could afford to do the train trip, right? Yeah, but
to clarify for the train trip, like people always ask, like, okay, well, you paid for the food, but how did you afford the ticket? Actually, the ticket was actually given to us from a contribution from a donor who I'm just lost for words. Like, I want to thank the person, and they want to stay anonymous, and they helped us out. They told me to get the most value for the dollar, get it as cheap as they could. And that's kind of what they want to do for us, just to recognize toward like a birthday or for a Christmas present, saying thank you for your advocacy. So again, people who appreciate all the content that we do on our channel here for our advocacy and bringing all the awareness of all the inequalities that people with lived disabilities and lived experience in Canada. If you believe in the content. And like you share that common interest that we do and say, well, I have a disability. I love to talk about my stories on here. How do I get involved? How do I contact these guys? I mean, they're doing an amazing job. I mean, not that I want to self-congratulate myself, but if you think that we're doing an amazing job and bringing on other guests and politicians and doctors and lawyers, and we've had them all on here. Do you want to be a guest yourself? And you say, I want to, get in touch. you can contact us through our email addresses. And
we should say again, like the email addresses are always posted right at the end of the show.
Yeah.
We have the outro at the end of the show. We post the emails there. The emails are at the bottom of every video in the description. And we are right at the end of the show, Brent. So I don't know.
Sure. We'll give it a few more. Give it a few more minutes.
Okay.
Sonjia,
I'm trying to rush you out the door there.
Yeah. Sonjia's got her headset on right now. She's listening to the actual talk show, and that was kind of the arrangement that I thought she was going to live. So we actually have a few more minutes.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
She can't even hear me now. She's got her headset on, so it actually mutes me out. Probably a good thing, I guess. Brent's talking. That's why she does that.
There you go.
But yeah, just to kind of look at that part is people who they say, well, I'd love to donate. Like, how do I do that? I mean, again, our email addresses are there. If you want to throw us some bucks, if you want to. I mean, I'm not putting any pressure, and I'm not making a person feel guilty of saying, oh, they're asking for help. Oh, it's a charity. No, we're not a charity.
Yeah.
We just put out good content. I have people reaching out to me all the time saying, like, I want to come on. I want to talk about what I go through in life, what my children go through too. And I have a guest coming up either later this month or the beginning of next month, and it's going to be coming on and talking.
Well, like our last guest was Tamara Taggart, and even she said, that a lot of people don't want to speak up and don't want to get involved when it comes to advocacy because they're afraid of being targeted. And I know that's a big thing. I mean, you and I are on this podcast, and you and I have had our share of being targeted. And I know a lot of politicians, MLAs and MPs, they get their share of targets and bows and arrows and on the whole rest of it. And so whenever you put yourself out there, you do become a target, and I think that's why it takes courage to speak up. It takes courage to come forward and share your story, and we realize that. So as much as we want to have people come on the podcast and share their story, we do realize that it is a big thing to come on and share your story, because you are taking a risk. I might take a few bullets or a few slings and arrows coming on and sharing my story and trying to be an advocate, right? Just as Tamara Taggart said.
Well, absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with saying how you feel. Like, and I've learned that actually through college is doing a self-awareness program, also doing videography and recording yourself and having the class listen back to what you are saying and talking about yourself, and sitting in a room. And it was like a recording studio. They had it set up like a recording studio, and you got a big window there and a big giant microphone. I'm looking into investing in that. I don't know any good ones. If anyone has any feedback on that, please let me know. I mean, or maybe you might even know.
You mean like a microphone like mine?
Yeah, well, Tamara Taggart, when she was on,
like the one I have right now is a Blue Yeti, and those are really good. So maybe we can get one of our sponsors to pony up for Brent, because I really like this. But also, too, I have my friend Kent, and he said as well, it would be cool if at some point, when you do your out and about, when you're doing your Breaking with Brents, he says like to invest in a lapel mic would be awesome, like a wireless lapel mic. So like, can you imagine, like, if you had a wireless lapel mic attached to your shirt or something, and then you could actually be walking away from the the phone or video footage, and people could still hear you, and you could also cut down on like wind noise and stuff too. So that was Kent's suggestion, and again, my friend Kent is in media. He's in radio and production and art. Like that's his early career, was that kind of stuff. So he's coming in it from experience
lived experience on that part. Again, if anyone looks at that and says, hey, let's get this guy something like that too, I'd be so grateful. you know, again, you can reach out through Amazon. Like I've got a lot of little things on Amazon too that things that I'm looking at. But of course, I can always add that to the list. Yeah, like I don't know anything too much about all those things, how it works. But yeah, I mean, if people know exactly what Neil's mentioning, that would be helpful to help to really enhance the journeys, the Breaking with Brent segments, our travel segments. And that's why I usually, when I'm doing the segments, I'm well aware, like sometimes that there's a lot of noise environment around me. So I'll speak louder to make sure that people hear me. If it's windy out, well, then I have to start yelling because I gotta make sure people hear me.
Well, I was just thinking about too, like as a producer, I love it when you. I'm gonna put on my producer hat and stuff but like I love it when you, like on your most recent video, you did a lot of really cool first person stuff. I love the first person stuff where you just have the camera and you just start walking, and you did one where you're walking down the aisle of the train, and that was a little bit there. But you do that a fair bit, and I thought it'd be kind of cool if you could have a bit more separation from the microphone to the camera, and then you could have things like maybe you could be starting at, you know, in front of the camera, and then just like walking down a long beach or something, and like walk like way down the beach, and people could still hear you or whatever, right? That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. You know, and it's all about getting the right equipment to work with that, and you know, and it's trial by error, seeing what is working and what's not on that, and just kind of fine tuning those kind of segments. And I think it's great. I enjoyed doing the segment walking through the train that way, and I was always, you know, very self-conscious because when I'm filming that way and then people were there, and I just kind of get the cameras as I keep on going, and then they realize what I'm doing. It's like I'm not focusing on that person. I'm just like doing an overview, going, and nobody come with it either.
Yeah, and I'll just say too, like I actually watch a fair bit of YouTube to get inspiration. Like I love photography, so a lot of the channels that I watch or tune into are people that talk about photography. And this one guy he's actually a Canadian. He lives in Toronto, I believe, and he's a really humorous channel. It's called Camera Conspiracies. I'll just put out. It's hilarious for anybody that loves camera stuff. He's hilarious, and like I said, he's Canadian too, so it's all the much better, right? But anyway, he has this thing where he does a lot of vlogging where he's just on a skateboard. And he does a lot of slow mo. So he has the camera and he's just has it mounted to his chest or something, or maybe or maybe to like his eye. But he does it kind of inconspicuous, where he's just kind of skateboarding, and then he's like going down a Toronto street or whatever, and he's filming like people walking towards him or whatever, and he does it in slow mo, and he puts to music. And it's the most cool thing, but I have to say, like one of the last videos he did, he was getting comments saying, "You're a freak. Why are you filming people without their permission?" And that's bad. But you know, but it was so cool because he trolled those comments, and he said, "What's so bad about filming people in their natural environment?" He says, I'm not being crude or freakish. He says, I'm just filming people. He says, in general, he says it's like
overview.
He basically sees it as human wildlife. That's the term he used, is human wildlife. And he says, I'm just capturing the essence of people in the best essence of people in their perfect environment. And that's what I love it. Like, I know you don't go out of your way to lurk around people either.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is, like I was saying with that camera guy that I watch, is when he's just filming people. Like, you know, when you did the segment in New York, remember? Right. And at the end, you had the whole long. It was like over a minute. You had the whole long segment of walking down the street, and you had all this like crowds of people coming
and
towards
also
you, and they just kind of parted like this, just like
kind of,
Moses, you know, like you were Moses, and they just kind of parted for you, you know, and it was the coolest thing
when they kind of veered off.
Yeah,
and I found that when I was doing filming on the train, because there was one part, and I actually had redone a little bit of this one recording because I filmed in these. Someone had said, "Oh, well, hang on, what are you using that footage for?" So I explained them. It's about my advocacy about train travel, just bringing the journey to people's attention on lived experience of the experience of going through the train travel, the different modes of accommodation and then coach on the way back, right? And like, oh, cool. And I said, so this is like a videography of our journey. Oh, neat. I said, so I wasn't filming you directly. And she's, oh, okay, cool. And so I had to kind of explain that. And so they said, okay, did you want to re-record? I go, if I could, yeah. And then I asked everybody in this one car, like I said, this is what I'm doing. Oh, okay. Because they weren't sure. And so they were all fine. And I had the one person who was actually, it's unfortunate because she believed in our advocacy, by the way, like wholeheartedly. And I'm hoping that she's actually watching our YouTube channel because she's going to subscribe to it. And she says, I really love watching train travel stuff and people's journey through life. And I said, okay, cool. So I filmed it, and it's too bad that she wasn't there because she was actually going to say hi and jump in. And I thought that would have been so cool. She was going to say hi, just pop out of nowhere.
That's cool.
Yeah, that would have been just priceless.
We could do more of that maybe in the future too, like you know, have meetups maybe of like we'll have a meetup at like a Tim Hortons or something. I don't know, but I mean it'd be cool, right? And
it's great.
And like I said, like that's my thing of people that push back on filming, like and like you're violating privacy, and this is what this guy on Camera Conspiracy said. He says, like, all I'm doing is I'm filming human wildlife. You're out in public. You're out in public already. So if you're out in public already, it means that you're okay being seen. Yeah. Like if you're not okay being seen, then you wouldn't be out in public.
Well, right? It's like a cameraman when they're out there, like a news hour, when they're actually on live on location, people are walking behind them and this and that, you see them. I mean, they're not worried about their being on TV or something like,
If you're out in public, then you're kind of fair game. Like you're basically human wildlife, like the guy on Camera Conspiracy says.
It's that one part when we arrived in Toronto, we got off the train. It was so neat because the accessibility-wise, when you got off the train in the same building, and the building is actually divided into areas for the transit. At first, I felt like I was lost and you can get lost in there. Oh yes, I've talked to people who actually live there, and they said they can actually get lost, but you find your way really quickly around because accessibility-wise, where there's attendants everywhere you look, there's attendants for each mode of transportation. So if you're taking a Go Transit, you're taking their TTC, you're taking their streetcar, and which is very neat too, by the way. And we did a segment on that one, pulling up the train. That was so neat. And I didn't understand the terminology. I kept saying, people, well, I just want to take the streetcar. Oh, okay, so the subway. So you need to go down this way. No, the streetcar, the one that runs on ground above. Yeah. And I guess they didn't understand what I was saying, the one person. So they sent us down the one way.
The red train.
And they're like,
bring me to the red train.
You need to catch it from here. I'm like, oh, so he sent us down, like we were already here. So we were like backtracking back and forth. And I found with my accessibility-wise using a transit pass, I was able to get through and it worked really well with me for accessibility-wise, getting through gate systems. I didn't feel at unease at any point of time. So I must want to be thankful to Go Transit there in Ontario, the TTC, all your transportation networks that you have there. Very accommodating. Security people everywhere around there too. They watch everything.
Yeah, and that's another big thing, difference between Toronto and Vancouver is because like before, like I remember, and I'm sure you do too, like when when the SkyTrain was first put in, and like many years afterwards, like the train attendants or the track attendants, they would have attendants just at the stations, or like the station attendants, and that they would just pop on and off the train, and that would be a regular thing on every station. On every station, they would post somebody, like usually 2 people.
Yeah.
And that was a common thing. And now, like, it's like you don't see anybody. Like, there's no security, nothing. There's like a camera that's maybe looping every like half an hour or something. I mean, who knows? I'm being sarcastic, but I mean, who really knows, right? But you know, there's cameras there, sure, but there's no attendant there. You very rarely see any security there. You only see police or transit security kind of after the fact. You know, if somebody's passed out on a causeway or something, you'll see them then, but that's like after the fact.
Well, right? I noticed when I was at the Union Station, they for their TTC, for instance. I mean, wow, they got all their gate systems, and you have to tap your card in order to get through. And they have attendants all there. They have them all there. They have security there. They have attendants there. They have other ones that are, they're like for the gates, okay? So they can actually control the gates and override things. They also have other attendants there that will make sure that people are, you know, if they're not sure where they're going, to direct them to other areas, other modes of transportation. So like layers upon attendants. And I thought, wow, and they're all communicating with each other. I heard somebody from a distance, they were on their CB, and I guess they saw us coming. And next thing I know, a lady walked up and she goes, "Hi, are you needing help to find where you're going?" I said, "Yeah, like what gate number do I go to catch the GO train?" Okay, so where are you going? So I'd say where we're going. And okay, so on the digital monitor, it would actually tell you where you're going. Okay, but what if I can't read that? Like that's pretty small print. Oh, okay. I said, yeah, I can't read that. Like I see the image. I just can't read what it actually is saying. Oh, okay. So she says, no problem. So she starts reading it out to me. Oh, I said, oh, no, neat. And she goes, if you're still not sure, I'll come back and I'll follow up with you. And looks like they're going to give an update. What they do is they give an update of what track that train is going to be arriving from at the Union Station where it's going to. Well, I couldn't see it was there unless I stood really far up there, but even then, like it was still up on an angle. And so the attendant came by and said, yeah, so I'll come closer to the time. It looks like there'll be an update in like about 17 minutes. Okay, so we waited. And looks like it's a bit sooner than that. I guess the train must have came in sooner. So she comes by. She goes, "Okay, so you're going to go through gate number 6 or 7." Oh, and so you now have to go down. You actually had to go down. And I'm like, oh, neat. So yeah, it's like layers of where you need to go to for the tracks. And I looked over, and guess what? I looked, and Via Rail sitting over there. Oh. You see Via Rail sitting over on the end, and I hey, wait a minute, that was the train that we were on. They have another one parked there, and then they had one, I guess, being serviced. So again, everything is all connected there of where you need to be. They were amazing customer service for accessibility wise. They helped me even see that from a distance, which I thought were great. Again, if it would be helpful if they actually gave audible announcements, maybe it might be because might be more cumbersome. I don't know, because so many trains coming and going. But they could say an update, gate 6-7 train going to blah blah, you know, or whatever. And then every so often they would update stuff. I mean, it can be done technology wise. That's the only drawback that I saw was the for audible wise. Visual wise, yes, having the attendant come by and actually help with that was amazing. So I thank you on that. Memorable experience via rail. Again, if you have an opportunity of taking the train, you know, and I don't get paid by Via Rail. Just everybody knows I'm not paid or sponsored by Via Rail or promoting their stuff.
We want to be. We want to be maybe.
Wouldn't that be nice if I was a sponsored promoter for Via Rail? Hey, if you want to be a promoter, I could sponsor you. And Via Rail, if you believe in our channel too. If you want to be a sponsor, reach out, or anybody wants to be a sponsor for our channel here. I mean, reach out to us. We're not going to say no. Yeah, thanks. And there's so much excitement of talking about the journey, though. I mean, since I've got a few minutes here, I'll dive into about the accommodation part because I didn't really dive into that. The time went by so fast when we were in Toronto. We tried to take in as much of our sightseeing as we could, but before we even left Toronto, like when we got there, our journey was really memorable, and I want to thank somebody very special and very dear, actually two people in particular. Birdie, it was great to see you.
Birdie.
Yeah, it was really great to see you. We spent the day with a good part of the day with Birdie, and people wonder, well, who's Birdie? Birdie is our secretary. One of
our beloved secretary.
Our beloved secretary for PWD Allies podcast. Behind the scenes does amazing stuff. She does a lot of our graphic stuff too. And of course, I want to, reach out directly to my editor producer right here, Neil Matheson, for your outstanding work that you do too. You keep me in line, and making sure that the show runs great too. And so you're just amazing too. Obviously at all times. So I mean, thank you, Neil. Again.
Just tell my wife that.
Yeah. And thanks to Neil's wife too for keeping Neil in line too. And also, I am the other individual too that Sonjia and myself were. We were just over amazed. The person we ran into, we wanted to check out. We were told to check out Square One Mall. Okay, when we got there, and I said, okay, it was on my bucket list. I thought, well, looking at maps, I'm thinking, oh, how am I going to get there? Like from where we were, going to visiting and all these things, and how am I going to incorporate that? And it was actually a lot closer than I thought. So we made our way up there, and I said to the hotel that we stayed at, also when we were there, plus our other journeys. But she said, well, how do I get to Square One? Oh, you just take the bus and, blah, blah. And I said, oh, okay, so the bus stop that we got off at. Yeah, that's right. And just catch that and just tell the bus driver operator where you're going, and they'll take you right there. And it was hop, skip, and a jump. It didn't take that long. And so we got there and looked around. I think there's over 350 stores. I didn't look at all that. It would have taken a couple of days to do that. And some of the stores I wasn't really interested in anyway. It was high-end stores, and just that wasn't interest to me. We did check out Chick-fil-A. Amazing food. Never been there, heard about it. Sonjia and myself, we had stumbled across that in New York. We never had a chance to check it out when we were there. So we heard that they had just launched it at Square One. We wanted to check it out, and so I got the camera out there right away. And the lady standing up, oh no! She's like, no. I said, that's okay. I said, that's fine. You're not going to be on video. I just want to get a picture of the video of the actual menu. So we got that, and so she says, okay. So she put her hand over her face while I recorded, and I just, but I made sure the camera was lower down, and she knew what I was doing, and she was all good spirit with it. And, again, awesome customer experience there. I'd say overall, Neil, and all the listeners and viewers, we had an outstanding time with customer service out there. In Ontario and the GTA surrounding areas, very hospitable. I can't.
Hospitable.
Hospitable. I can never pronounce that word right. It's like, but it was. It basically made us feel very welcome.
And you didn't mention Joseph yet, too.
You see, Joseph was the person who we ran into, because I contacted Joseph when we were at the Square One. And Joseph answered, goes, hello. And I said, hi. And he goes, where are you? And he already knew. He knew that we were already out there. He knew. And so I said, so we're at Square One. Oh, shoot. If you would have called me sooner, I was just down. I could have met you at Union Station. I go, so how long does it take to get to Union? From there? He goes, oh, no. He says, I've already left from there. I'll say, can you meet us at Square One? Well, where are you going to be heading from there? I said, well, we're going to be heading back to where we need to get off our train. And so he said, okay. So I'll tell you what, give me like 45 minutes. And it's going to take you a good time from the time you leave the mall and catch the bus to get down to where you're going anyway. And it's going to take you a good hour anyway, and probably myself. So, within that time frame, 45 minutes to an hour, we're going to meet there. So, yeah, and so we got on the bus and we got out of there, and it was hot. It was really, really hot. The humidity was very high, something that we were not used to from the West Coast, right? And it got boiling hot, and it felt like almost like 40 something degrees out. It was, yeah. So anyway, we got on the bus and nice air conditioning. So we got on, made arrangements with Joseph. Well, we got off the train, off the bus, got to the train station, and guess who was waiting there from a distance? Big smile on the face. We're still on the bus, and Sonjia looked, hey, that looks like Joseph. Yep. And he saw the bus pulling up. He was already there. He got there before we did. And we come along and, hello, everyone. So he says, look who it is. Hello. I said, it's the numbers guy. It's the numbers guy. And it was great. It was awesome meeting up with you, Joseph. We had a fantastic time. I look forward to doing that again. It definitely was a memorable experience. And I still have those pins, Joseph. DERB, I still have the bag. And I did Neil and myself recently attended a town hall meeting through Zoom. And Mike Morris, I showed Mike Morris the bag of DERB pins. So anyone who's interested and wants one or some, let me know. Reach out to us and I can make arrangements of getting some of them to you. I have no problem doing that. We need to get the momentum back out there again. The politicians want to shut down that division of DERB. We became a very major headache to them. I think a migraine at times. However, you've created migraines for people with disabilities too, politicians across the country, by not keeping up with, no less than poverty level, as Jeff Leggat would always mention. And so I keep that narrative going also.
And your petition that you and I worked on. It's 5047. That's going to be spoken of in the House now, probably around maybe October-ish. October
24th, I believe it is, or maybe sooner. It depends on when it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought it'd be somewhere around October. I wasn't sure.
It might get dropped sooner than that. I can give it a little bump. I'll talk to the MP. Yeah, definitely.
But that's cool, though. That's cool.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. And so when I say the politicians gave PWD a migraine, like the situation is not going away, everyone. Like people who are being taken care of or supposed to be taken care of. Yeah, let me reword that. Are supposed to be taken care of on provincial disability assistance. They used to be pensions at one time, back in the late 1990s. Unfortunately, the governments chose that. No, we don't want to make them pensions any longer. Why should they be like seniors to have pensions? No, we want to make them heavily income means tested, because the job was what was supposed to just to solve everything. Just get them a job. Just get them a job. I always hear the rhetoric from like the Ontario government. Just get them a job. BC, same thing. Well, Brent, if you're able to, maybe you might want to consider getting a job.
Yeah.
Well, I had a job.
Yeah.
But I'm not able to do the kind of work that I used to be able to do. I guess it's what you tell seniors too when they get really old too. Your pension's not big enough. Yeah, get off the chair, get off the couch, get a job, right?
Yeah, and that's always been the number one thing for me too. Is there's so many people that had jobs, including myself.
Exactly.
For many years.
I worked for decades.
For 20 years at least for me.
Yeah.
And I mean, and again, we could turn this into another 2-hour podcast, but we won't do it.
No.
But one thing I always say is, me and my metaphors, right? But I always say that people with disabilities our work life is measured in dog years. And what I mean by that is for every year that I've worked, or for every year that anybody with a disability works, it's equivalent to 7 years, because or it's equivalent to 1 dog year, which is seven human years.
Yep.
And I'm not even exaggerating that 1 year of work for me and for most everybody on disability, you take a lot of wear and tear on your body. So that 1 year or that 20 years of overall work that I did, which is, and we're talking like 20 years mostly of like 8-hour, like 40-hour work weeks mostly. And so you have like 20 years of that. That's equivalent.
140 years.
That's equivalent to 140, and that's not
140 years old, Dale.
And that's not even a hyperbole. It sounds like hyperbole. It sounds like an exaggeration, but it's not.
No, exactly.
And I wish MLAs and I wish MPs and everybody would realize how much toil and is put on a disabled body. 20 years of that on a disabled body is 140 years worth. And again, it's not even an exaggeration. It's not hyperbole. It's the truth. And so for me to work 20 years and then for David Eby and every premier before him to say, well, just get a job. Well, I had a job for 20 years and now you're disrespecting my survivor's pension. You know, so how fair is that I've worked the equivalent of 140 years, if you take it in dog years, I've worked 140 years, and you're saying, well, 140 years isn't good enough, you don't deserve your pension, too bad, we're going to claw that back. And you know, like I said, I didn't want to really go down that rabbit hole, but I did anyway. But yeah,
that's okay. I mean, it's you have to bring the awareness to people who don't understand how the system works, and like how people with disabilities, what they endure on a day-to-day basis, and every year, and then hoping that there's going to be a rate increase to their provincial disability, and then the government pats themselves on the shoulders, or whatever government is across Canada, says, oh, but look what we did, right? I mean, how many raises did we give? Oh, little peanuts here and there, and how many times that they've raised the rates? Well, why don't just bring it up to no less than poverty level, like minimum? Like that's the bare minimum, even more. I mean, because people who have disabilities have ongoing expenses, medication expenses, whatever their condition is, or multiple conditions. I mean, it's like always, the government always likes to compare like apples to oranges all the time, or one size fits all, saying, oh, a job, and it's just so much rhetoric. They know at the end of the day the answer, and I know this. They know the answer at the end of the day. I talked to some people on the train when I was traveling, so I got to know some more information, and the government knows the answer. It's just what they want to put a rhetoric out there to their stakeholders to make it look like, look what we're doing. Yeah. We're trying to fill the void by giving a speech out saying jobs. And meanwhile, they know that PWD, if they were able to do work, they would be doing that. If they're not able to do it, you need to be providing no less than poverty level. And when I mentioned Jeff along our way, Jeff, and so I promoting, our narrative, your narrative, but I promote it out there because I believe that nobody should be living in legislative poverty in Canada. It should not even be a discussion at any level of government of anybody who is not even getting the proper financial supports, the proper housing, the proper health care. I mean, transit. I mean, you name it. I advocate in so many different areas. But I stay pretty straightforward on the areas that I really are really focused on. And then, of course, then I get off on a tangent because there's so many areas I want to try and tackle.
Like we're doing now, but that's okay.
But right now,
and like Jeff Leggat always says, poverty level is the minimum, right? And I mean that's all that Jeff Leggat is advocating for, and sometimes he gets a target on his back because people say, well, why are you only advocating for poverty level? Well, I mean, that should be the baseline. That should be baseline, and then add on to that maybe. But we're not even like there yet. So at
we're not even close.
least get to the poverty level first, and then, you know.
Well, yeah, exactly. And when I mentioned about a lot of the advocacy stuff that we do, I promoted our channel. I talked about Jeff Leggat, the journeys across Canada, advocating for his you know, self-advocates, advocacy of looking out for his brothers and sisters, you know, mothers and fathers of people with disabilities across Canada. And yes, like we all vote, everybody, we all vote. And I guess that's where I'm going to branch this topic off to here. And it's all about advocacy. It's all about accessibility wise too, right? This is all kind of integrated all into one part of like the show about when I say accessibility of talking to people along their journey. And I talk about accessibility wise when it comes to the train versus and you know, transit wise and government listening. It was amazing the people that I spoke to about having common interest. Like it was amazing that when you're on a train, you got so much the time on there, like time stands still, and the amazing conversations that you can get into. And it really opened my eyes to realize that, yeah, like we are doing a great thing, Neil. We are doing an amazing thing with our advocacy, like the channel here. You know, I was encouraged to really blossom things. And that's what we're doing.
Actually, can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
That because we just hit the 80,000 views mark just a few days ago. And I mean, you have to remember that I was using the channel a little bit when you had the Twitter Spaces. I was taking little bits of those Twitter Spaces and posting some videos. So that was in 2022. I started using the channel for that. Yeah. But honestly, nobody was watching those videos, right? I mean, nobody cared. I mean, let's be honest. Nobody even knew about my channel. Nobody cared. So it's only been in the last 20 months. We've been on YouTube exclusively now. It's been 20 months. It's been a year and 8 months that we've been exclusively on YouTube. So all of the growth of this YouTube channel has happened in the last year and 8 months. And so for us to get to 80,000 views, and we're over 600 subscribers now, which
amazing.
We just hit that too.
That is so cool.
And it's great. So like I'm just
you want to subscribe.
I just encourage everybody to share out the stuff and to subscribe and you know, like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff.
And the ones that were that I've interacted with on the Via Rail traveling along, if you haven't subscribed yet and you're watching, please subscribe. And you might be some of the ones who have subscribed actually along the journey, which I know some of you have, because I did interact with some of you, and I know that for sure you have, because I have given out the cards along the journey, along the way, and some of them were actually following while on our other journey that we did. Some of them actually were following back and sending me messages saying, "Yay! So I see that you're doing the Via Rail. Oh, wow, isn't that great? We're actually rewatching some of the other footage." And so people were actually following along the journey, and they said it's so amazing. On looking at the landscape of the beautiful country along the prairies that we went through, like just miles and miles of open air, like just nothing there. Like it was so peaceful, and the train just clipping along so fast, 136 kilometers an hour at some points. It was just and the train just going, but it was like time stood still. Mm-hmm. The amazing part where you're going through northern Manitoba, and there was no cell phone signal in certain parts. Even the prairies, there was times where there was no signal. It would drop off. I would try to upload into like the drive there, Neil. And I didn't realize what was going on here. Well, yeah, in order to upload to the drive, you still need an internet connection.
Right.
And I thought, what? I'm like, oh man. Then I realized after, and it kept sitting here waiting, trying to think, oh, no internet connection. So I had to then delete it and just wait, because otherwise what happened was it would come through as incomplete, and it would all get all garbled up. So I'm like, oh, I was just like, oh, okay, that's okay. Technology can wait. And that's why I mingled with people and talked about our advocacy, about lived experience people go through on a day-to-day basis. A gentleman, I'll tell his story. Gentleman was going to work one morning, and he had said bye to his wife and his 2 children, and he woke up 2 weeks later in hospital. The last thing he remembered was saying bye to his wife. He didn't know what happened. He woke up and he was in hospital. He was told that he would never move again. He was paralyzed from waist down. He had access to one arm. He lost his one arm, so he was able to have, but he was got aesthetics put on, so he was able to actually use his arm, but not, I guess, artificially.
So what was the accident? Did you say?
Basically, motor vehicle accident. A drunk driver. Guy decided that he was done an overnight shift. He was doing some maintenance work, and he was on his way to work. Unfortunately, he didn't arrive back to his work site. He would end up in hospital. A person decided to leave the pub where he was, where I guess he was at. And bartender said, "Have a good night," and didn't maybe gave him a few extra drinks that he probably shouldn't have had. I'm really against that myself. Drinking and driving.
Yeah.
I'm really against that. I lost a friend of mine way back when, drinking and driving. And so when I hear people drinking and driving, it really
and we lost Johnny Goudreau, his brother.
Yes.
Just very recently, the hockey player. Well, actually, they were both hockey players.
Yep.
Young guys. Young guys.
Well, that's what I mean. This guy, he was young too. Like he told me his story. I mean, he was told that he would be he had no feelings further down at all, and he was a spinal cord. It was just completely but anyway, just kind of summing up his story. I mean, that he says never take life for granted. He told me, because things can change so rapidly, so quick. And he says no fault of the person. I mean, he already had a learning disability, like when he was younger. So this is compound to him. I said, yeah, that's okay. Just pile more on there, bud. Just pile more disabilities onto it. Why not? Yeah. His sense of humor he just got me just laughing. He goes, what the hell? Why not just stack it up? He says, what the hell? I mean, why not add more? He says, add more shrimp to the barbet, sir. Yeah. And I said, oh. And the guy came by with some cocktails. When we were there, they were complimentary. When you have sleeper, they come by with this one that's complimentary stuff. And would you like this, sir? Would you like? And I'm like, oh, what is that? And I think I kind of ticked them off a bit. Like, what is that? They're hors d'oeuvres. Oh, okay. So anyway,
horse de ver.
Yeah, horse de ver for your sir. It was quite.
Actually, Birdie's gonna get upset that I said that, but anyway.
Yeah, no, she's good. That's not how you pronounce that.
Yeah.
But hearing people's stories about and the guy, he was a good sense of humor. He had a good sense of humor about what he had gone through. I mean, I guess you have to just take life as it is, and says never take it for granted. But he says governments should never take it for granted either. They're supposed to be there to take care of their citizens, and there's another segment that that we'll get into. I learned some stuff actually through Mike Morris when we did their town hall, and I'll be doing a little segment on that one. I'll give you a little hint, Neil. While you were there, it was about housing. Yeah. Okay. So people will be thinking, what? What's he talking about housing? Something about people think that everyone should have housing. Well, I learned something in there, and I didn't even know that. So that was
actually really that was interesting. Actually, I think I know
it was an eye opener.
I think I know what you're getting at. And
it was quite an eye opener indeed, right? Because
we'll just leave it there. But
we'll leave it. We'll park it on that one. But stay tuned, everyone, on that part, because you'll be like, okay. I think he was talking about something, but I'm not gonna. It's like pulling the cat out of the bag, eh?
Yeah. Schrodinger's cat again.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was going on that.
Schrodinger's cat.
Because it's important when it comes again to having the right accessible housing. And that comes to transit wise. My journey on there was great. Was very memorable. And you look at what works, what doesn't work. Again, on Via Rail, if people have allergies to certain foods, they do have an allergy menu. Like they will actually work with your allergies and give you different food that will work for your situation. Indeed, and they ask you that too. Like do you have allergies to certain things? And and so you just fill it out. And
Dan just popped into chat, and we're just about ready to leave.
Yeah. Hi, Dan.
It's like he always seems to pop in just when we're about to pop out of the podcast. Yeah. But anyway, hi, Dan.
Hey, Dan. Dan. Sorry that we weren't able to meet up when we got out there. I know that you're very busy with the council stuff.
I hope it's going well too.
Yeah. I hope your campaign's going great. And again. Reach out to Dan and give him your thumbs up to what he's wanting to run for and to make change. Same thing. His advocacy is so important in his community, and he's doing kind of what we're doing. Like what we're advocating for change, he's advocating for change in his community, and anyone who's running for public office or at a municipal level. Everyone's advocating for a change of what they want to see changed. And what do I want to see it changed as an overview? To conclude, I want to see more accessible transit across Canada. There's no reason why we can't. I need to see the federal government start stepping up to the pony here. Okay, start stepping up and actually providing proper transportation and network across Canada and connecting communities together. Doing the blame game, saying, oh, well, the provinces are not allocating the money properly. If that is the issue, and I don't know if it's the issue, okay, put it to where it's supposed to go to and say, okay, this is going to go to transportation. This is going to go to healthcare. This is going to go to housing. This is going to go to income supports. This is, channel it to where it needs to go and make sure that it's going to where it's supposed to go to. If you're worried that it's going to go into general revenue in the government, if there's a problem there, well, then communicate.
And don't just put it towards another FTE.
Yeah, exactly.
I used to work in government too, like as an FTE. Yeah. So I know what FTEs are, right?
Yes.
And I mean, you don't need another body. I mean, exactly. if you're gonna put disability supports part of them is to pay salaries for another full-time employee of the provincial government. I mean, that's not allocating your funds properly.
Well, exactly, and it's about accountability of where federal does their transfer payments, and they're all transfer payments over to the provinces. And if they're worried, well, it's going into general revenue. If those transfer payments for PWD are supposed to go to PWD, then you make sure the finance minister is actually putting it to PWD, not into general revenue or well, hey, no, we need to have 10 staff members in this one ministry, and this one needs 8, that one needs 10 or 8.
We have 10 staff members for every one person.
And so then they say, well, what's the right hand, left hand doing? Who are they communicating with? So I need to make sure that things are allocated properly. I mean, we can make Canada a much better place. It's all about communicating and working together. Advocates. I mean, we over time since we launched the Twitter space, and then now we're over to where we are now. We branched to a new horizon. We found over time like what is working, what wasn't working. Maybe different communications on advocacy wise. I learned from people. I've made mistakes along the way. I've said maybe a few things that in advocacy wise that maybe I didn't understand, because I learned from people. People learn from me. I learned from them. We all have our own avenues for advocating. At the end of the day, we all want to achieve the same thing. It's on different approaches of how we get to where it is. in basically it's kind of working together in different areas, maybe not directly like right together, but as an overview, right? So when I'm waving my hands on the screen, people say, what? So I'm waving my hands as a circle, right? Meaning like a circle working together and achieving the same goal. What is the same goal? Happiness, autonomy. Autonomy is a strong word. And some people will say, Brent, careful on that word autonomy. Well, when I'm using the word autonomy, I'm going to use the word autonomy in a certain context here.
Yeah.
And that word, if I'm using the word right now as autonomy, is letting PWD in Canada, whatever province they live in, to make their decision. Okay, government, I want you to listen to this carefully. Let the PWD in their province make their proper decision based on what their needs are. So, number one, if they want to live in market housing, let them stay in market housing. Give them the proper financial support. If they want to live in subsidized housing under, if it's like, well, we're in BC, so BC housing. If it's through a non-profit society, for-profit society, it all stems under BC housing. Again, that's another rant on another show. Again, it's
we did one not very recently, actually, all about BC housing.
Yeah. And again,
Boondoggle is the name of the episode.
Yeah, people want to refer back to that segment. I talk about that a lot on there, on what I learned through BC housing. Again, giving the proper financial support, but giving the autonomy to that person so they can make the right decisions that they feel is based on what their needs are, not what government says that, oh, well, we're building housing. We're building housing. Great. And I encourage them to build more housing. I'm not saying don't build housing, because somebody had brought that to my attention. Brent, you mentioned on your podcast that people need to live in this kind of housing. Right. What I'm saying is that people need to make that decision where they want to live. And sure, government can be building or getting housing built through nonprofits or for-profits. I know it's confusing because there is the private sector and public sector, and that can be done under government. And also that can also be done under REITs, under this sector of housing. Or
so another one is co-ops. Not enough
co-ops. Yes.
Not enough co-ops are done now.
And those are done under government sector too, like they're for profit or not for profit. I learned this through an MLA too, where it gets confusing because they said, the person told me it can get very confusing even for them, because there's the public sector where governments control, like they have their kind of their umbrella housing, but there's also the sector where you get the mom and pop type of housing where maybe they own a house, maybe they want to rent a basement suite, maybe they want to rent their townhouse out or their condominium out, or you live in an apartment building or a condominium, whatever the case may be. That is a different kind of sector of housing. Now, a lot of PWD, persons with disabilities in BC and across Canada, live in that sector of housing. So what I'm saying is that when I say that I want the government to listen carefully, I want you to listen to what their needs are, what the person's needs are. If they want to continue living in that sector of housing, maybe they live in a basement suite and they're happy with their landlord, but the landlord wants to raise their rent. Yeah. Okay, well, no fault of the person. They just want to live there, but they don't.
There aren't very many rents that are $500.
Exactly. Yeah. Tell me, government, where you can find rent at $500 living in in market housing. You can't.
Yeah.
Impossible. Anywhere in Canada.
And they know that. They know that.
Yeah, they know. At the end of the day, it's rhetoric, right? It's rhetoric. And so when I say autonomy-wise, I want them to really focus on that, especially when it comes about accessible housing. Transit-wise, same thing. If they want to move to another province, again, it comes down to a person should be able to go to whatever province they need to move to. If it's for medical reasons, maybe they want to change of life, they want to live somewhere else. If it's transportation-wise, maybe their family live there, or maybe their cousins live there. They don't need to apply for disability again. They should be able to move there. Right? So again, autonomy-wise, I know it can be done. It should be interchangeable. We are Canadians with disabilities. We're citizens in Canada, not just in the province we live in. We have our Canadian citizenship. We should be able to live where we want. Seniors can.
Yeah.
seniors can live wherever they want.
Yeah,
Why
and I think it's
PWD
important. And again, like we probably should end the podcast
Yeah.
soon, but I did want to just end off on when you say autonomy.
Yes.
It is important to clarify the bounds of that definition because,
Yeah.
as I always say, you can bastardize definitions 6 ways from Sunday.
Oh yeah.
You know, like you can talk about autonomy, you can talk about equity, you can talk about equality. I mean, but you can bastardize any of those.
You can pull it all apart. Yeah.
You can bastardize any of those, right? And I think it's important when we use the word autonomy, we're using it in the most purest sense of what it actually means, not a perverted, bastardized version of it. We're like when I think of a definition, like I'm thinking of a definition in the purest sense, like going to a dictionary. What does a dictionary say of, like, you know, if, like, again, I don't want to like make this into another whole podcast, but to take Stillwell's example, you know, Michelle Stillwell, her example, her definition of equity for taking away the bus pass, it was equity in the system. Well, the proper definition of equity is to restore something. It's not to take away something. It's a restorative thing. When you're talking about equity, you're talking about a restorative justice. You're not talking about a taking away or a minusing of something. And her definition of equity was taking away a bus pass. Now that's
a handful, just a small handful.
Yeah, and that does not respect the restorative nature of what equity actually is, right? And that's what I mean about bastardizing things. And I mean, I'll just end on.
And that's and that's kind of why when I mentioned autonomy, it's looking at the individual person, and you know, I say autonomy as letting them make that decision, what their needs are, what works good for them, not what the government feels it's good for them, because their stakeholders say, well, our stakeholders are basically saying, where they're hearing that, no, this is not working. Well, why don't you talk to the actual person? Like, I'm not worried about the stakeholders here. Like, let's remove the stakeholders out of the equation, people. Let's talk to the person and their life, their lived experience. Like when I go on a rant and I say, I just want transportation to get to and from a community. Am I asking for too much? And then I hear from a minister and the transportation, he's not running again. Rob Fleming, Honorable Minister Rob Fleming, you mentioned that you're working on getting the transportation. They're working at fixing up the Victoria to Duncan back and forth throughout the day, like to get to a community, be able to come back the same day. Apparently they're working on it. I just want to know where, like, what year they're working at getting to get that fixed. Like, is it going to happen this year, or within a few months, or when? Like,
should I sing the song again? Welcome to the Hotel California. You can never leave.
But anyway, I guess when I mentioned that, I'm doing a follow up because I want to know, like, when is that going to get fixed? You know, because when I mention things that make sense, when I saw that when I was in Toronto, being able to get to and from, I was like, wow, you can actually get to and from the community and not have to worry about not being able to get back. I was just in awe, like the transit. It was the difference between nighttime, daytime, you know, for the transit wise, and especially Victoria. Like, you can't get anywhere else. You're like trapped. I mean, I'd go as far as Sydney, out to Saanich. I can, if I wasn't coming back the next day, I could go up North Island, meaning Duncan and Cowichan. If you don't want to come back the same day, fine. But where are you going to stay for the night? You know, so you should be able to go in the morning and come back later in the day back to Victoria. It should not be an issue, but you can't do that. So it tells me the system's broken, right? Victoria blames Cowichan, Cowichan blames Victoria. So then back and forth, so nothing ever gets done, right? I mean, I could do that too. I could, you know, blame, the current premier from the former government back and forth. Well, 16 years, 7 years, 16 years, 7 years. But then, well, hello, nothing's getting done. Why don't we just work together? Same as transit, same as across the country. You know, BC blames the federal government, federal blames the BC, or vice versa. You know, it's like, well, hello, like, talk to each other. Let's fix things up. Let's fix
and
PWD rates up. Same as CDB. Like, I mean, that's another football game. But hey, you know, I hope everybody enjoyed today's segment. I know we got off on a rant we talked about the trains and then transit. And
we don't do that, do we, Brent?
We don't do that. It keeps it entertaining though. It really covers a lot of other topics all built into one, and it kind of gears up to, I guess, like little hints of who our guests are coming up too, because we talked about photography.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So that's one of our guests coming up.
Yes.
We talked about children with disabilities just briefly. That's another guest coming up soon.
We talked about budgeting. There's somebody coming up in next month. We're talking about budgeting.
Talking about that. So there are little hints that we talk about. You know, train travel. You know, and of course, after we already had just done that, I mean, we're already looking at other segments of train travel. And people think, wow, I mean, you guys love traveling. Well, we do. We love traveling on train. Because meeting people, talk about common interests, talk about our advocacy, spreading the word around about joy and happiness. And joy and happiness can be spread around by communicating with each other and bringing people's spirits up in an uncertain world of uncertainty when it comes to economic turnaround. When I mentioned about income supports, people were shocked, Neil, just before we end the segment. Well, in the segment about 5 minutes now, so people listening to it going, "Oh my God, Brent, please stop! How much longer are you going to keep going?"
I'm gonna bring the cane out.
Yeah, but when I talked to people about income supports, they were shocked. They thought that the shelter portion was on top of the actual rate. I go, no, it's all built into one, all one. Mm-hmm. They're like, then why is there a shelter portion? There should not be a shelter portion. If it's all in one, then it's all in one check, right? Pay how you want to pay your rent. But they were shocked at how governments can just throw breadcrumbs. They just throw little amounts and they go a year, skip a year, but then say they, well, hey, we raised the rates X amount of years. Because that's what they all love doing. It's like they want to congratulate themselves, and they're like, so there should be enough where, if you want to, I don't know, enjoy life, like, maybe nothing extravagant, but you want to take a basic trip somewhere, still have some money left over. You pay your rent, you pay your bills, you buy your food, buy your basic toiletries that you need in the household, rather than going to a food bank or whatever. The needs should be there for parents, for children. I said, yeah, like we were talking, a whole group of us, and and like the children, the lady said she had to sacrifice certain things in order for her children to go on a train trip, because she wanted them to enjoy life, the experience of going on a train travel. And
well, that's the whole thing about being a parent. Like I sacrifice all the time. And I mean, I even talked to my son about money just a few days ago, and I said very bluntly, and maybe I shouldn't say stuff like this, but I did anyway. I said, you have to realize that for the last 3 Christmases in a row, you're basically the only one that got a good Christmas. Like, for example, like this past Christmas, I got him a guitar, because he basically needed one for school, so I bought him a guitar.
That's so cool.
And then what did I get? Like the other Christmas before that, I got him like a new Switch, the Nintendo. And so, like I said, I'm buying those things for you because I'm scripting and saving. And I said, guess what? Everybody else got 1 or 2 shirts, Like I gave my wife a couple shirts and she gave me a couple shirts, and that was it.
Yeah.
And what it's been like for the last 3 Christmases. And I mean, that's fine. I'm not complaining, but
Yeah.
I was just putting in context for my son. Is like I'm doing as much as I can for you all the time, and I sacrifice myself all the time, and even when it comes to Christmases too, like, you know, that's it, like 1 or 2 shirts, and that's it, and you know what.
Well, and that's what I found too is like talking to people, and also my lived experience is never being hoping that oh yeah, like I'm gonna get this or that. I never expect anything. Like I'm grateful for whatever I get, and that's how I was brought up that way too. Is you just it is what it is. You get what you get, and if you don't, you don't. And I just appreciate everyone around me, and just, you know, having friends and family around me, and just enjoying whatever the season is, and even like our train travel, it is what it was, right? And we just went with it, talked to people and what they went through, and I was amazed. And I'm thinking, wow, these people, you know, they must, you know, they're in basically accommodation stuff, and you know, just the average person, they saved up for years in order to go and do that travel. And some people think, oh wow, you must be rich to be able to take you know, like that, have that kind of accommodation. But some of the prices, yes, I must admit, VRL, like, you got to work on the prices a little bit better though. I must constructive criticism. Like on our way back, we did coach seating, and one of the attendants, CSR, okay, he had reached out, and it was amazing. Like we were going through Sioux Lookout in Ontario, and I'm thinking, well, where's Sioux Lookout? Anyway, he said, well, when we get communication, because they're radio communication, they need to radio their headquarters. They can radio each other on the train with their walkie-talkies they use, and like CDs, like their stuff, right? Which is so cool because you can hear conversations. Like, oh, interesting, you know. But anyway, they had to radio their headquarters to find out for us about accommodation, because they knew that, well, how far are you traveling? Oh my God, you're going to be going coach seating? Oh wow. So they were trying to bend over backwards to try to find accommodation for us to see if they could make it work. Well, we found out that we do have some. You have to wait till we get to Winnipeg. Oh, okay. And we could make that happen, but you'd have to do an upgrade. Oh, I see. And how much? That would be $4,026. I like to say, what? Did I win the lottery or something? No. And you know, like, but he knew, he was joking with them, but he said, I wouldn't even pay that. Like, there was, I go, well, who would? Some people, he said, will. Unfortunately, some people, it doesn't mean nothing to them. Like, money doesn't mean anything. He goes, oh, okay. He goes, so you think that's expensive? Try Prestige. We got one here for $13,054. Say what? He goes, yeah. Some people will pay it just because, and it doesn't mean anything. And those, and unfortunately, there's concept of money management, right? But some people will do it. It doesn't mean anything. Maybe they sold their home and they're retired and they made lots of money, or maybe they saved up for many years. And this is like, maybe they saved up since they were a little kid, and they saved up, and now they're in their late 60s or early 70s, and this is a one-time shot deal they're doing. And yeah, I mean, I go, yeah, talk about go out with a bang, right? I mean, with like on the, I don't mean this in a bad way, everybody, but when I say go with a bang,
Oh.
No, but when I say that, I mean like go with the bang, like on the train, like having a bang of a time. It's like having like a great time, enjoying life's journeys on the train. Because train travel, like, it doesn't matter if you can afford, like some people may say, yeah, I'm going to have a Lamborghini versus I'm going to have just a regular Honda, right? I mean, there's a difference between like types of vehicles, but you're still going to get from point A to point B. So when I say about accommodation wise, yeah, like you can still get everything that you need under a smaller amount. But if you want more space, yeah, go with a bigger accommodation if it's in your budget. At the end of the day, the journey is excellent. Yeah, and it's worth it. And so I hope when I mentioned that last comment, I didn't mean to hurt anybody, like go out with a bang. But what I mean is like just enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
Go and
no, we all know what you meant, Brent.
Yeah, but I mean, it takes time to save up. But it was hilarious. But I mean, it takes time to save up for these things. So, like again, thank you very much for the sponsor who took care of our ticket. We had to pay for our own food. That was part of the thing. So we were happy with that. And I hope I got the most value for you. And again, yeah, like thank you. And I'm not going to say no again if you ever want to do that again. So, or anybody else that says, hey, he's great. These guys had a great time. I want to make it more memorable. I do travel on Amtrak sometimes, but yeah, I just don't know when that journey will be again. We'll have to kind of work toward that, but it will be in the future. Just don't know when. Via rail, yes, I look forward to being on board again in their next journey sometime. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining in today. I hope that you enjoyed our extended long conversation.
Yeah.
The information is valuable to you. Please subscribe, share, promote the channel. If you want to contribute, if you're in the financial means of contributing for the content that you're enjoying, reach out to Neil or myself through email, e-transfer, PayPal, whatever it may be. We'll accept it. Just pass on the information to your friends and family. Anyone can become disabled at any time, but at the same time, enjoy life. Don't take life for granted because things can change so rapidly. Life's a journey, and on train travel, you never know where it will take you because time stands still. When you're in train mode, I always say, when you're in train mode, you're in that mode. You'll get there when you get there.
Roads. We don't need roads.
Roads, yes. We'll look back at this video, Neil, later on. They're going to say, what? You're talking about trains? They're talking about buses, cars? What?
We talked about a lot of stuff.
They say, what are these people talking about? We fly in the air now.
I have to watch back the episode to even remember what we said.
Yeah.
We covered so much.
Yeah, they're going to look back and say, what? No, we just snapped our fingers. We could be in this point at that time, anytime. Wow, they were really, really back at old age. Hey, people watching that, you think that's old? Look back, way back in history. They had horse and buggies. Anyway, thanks everyone.
Okay,
Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.